we studied a fascinating lesson. Have you ever asked yourself, I wonder what the future holds? What's going to happen tomorrow? If you've ever asked that question, then this is a lesson for you. Come, join me as we discover prophecy, because prophecy actually tells us what the future holds. The hour of his judgment. The word hour implies time, and judgment, and the word judgment is the process of evaluating, the process of comparing. The main memory verse was taken from Romans chapter 13, verses 11 and 12, and it said, "And do this, knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of your sleep. For now is our salvation closer than when we first believed. The night is far spent, the day is at hand." Which day? The day of judgment. Daniel got this vision, but he did not understand. What is 2,300 days and the sanctuary shall be cleansed? The one great thing about the Bible is that the Bible interprets itself. It doesn't need my help, your help, or anyone's help. I must allow it to interpret itself. In Isaiah 28:13 says, this is how you should study. Line upon line, precept upon precept, a little here and a little there. So you have to use the whole Bible, the Old and the New Testament, in order to understand what the Bible says. So Daniel 8:14 mentions that 2,300 days before the sanctuary shall be cleansed. In Daniel 8:19, it tells us that the vision that Daniel had is for the end time. So 2,300 days, are they literal days or are symbolic? Because we're dealing with prophecy, symbolic. And if you go to Ezekiel 4:6 and Numbers 14:34, it actually tells us 1 literal day equals 1 literal year. So the 2,300 day prophecy is really a 2,300 years prophecy. When does it start? Daniel chapter 9 verses 26 tells us, with the decree of rebuilding Jerusalem, the timing starts. If you go to Ezra chapter 7 verses 13 and 27, you will see that the decree to rebuild Jerusalem was given in the year 457 before Christ. So now we have a starting point. 457, you add 2,300, it takes you all the way to 1844. So at the end of this prophecy, the sanctuary was going to be cleansed. Chapter 9 continues to explain that out of these 2,300 days, 70 weeks was cut off for the Jews. So 70 weeks times 7, there's 7 days in a week, you end up with 490 days or 490 years. The 70 week is divided into 69 weeks plus 1. At the end of the 69 weeks, the Messiah was going to be anointed. He was going to be baptized. And this happened in the year 27. Out of the 70 weeks, there's 1 week remaining, which is divided into 2 halves. At the end of 3.5 days, or 3.5 years, the Messiah was going to be cut off. He was going to be crucified. And this happened in 31 AD. At the end of the 3.5 years, Stephen becomes the first Christian martyr. So at the end of the 70 weeks, the gospel is taken away from the Jewish nation and given to the Gentiles. They have rejected the Son of God. Now this gospel, this everlasting gospel, is taken to the Gentiles. And that's how the Christian church starts. What takes place in 1844? It's the prophecy of Daniel 14 said that the sanctuary was going to be cleansed. In the Jewish economy, they had a sanctuary, which Moses was given a vision of a pattern, the heavenly pattern. Exodus 25:40, Moses is shown the pattern, the heavenly pattern, and is told to do a replica here on earth. So he replicates and he builds the sanctuary here on earth. In the outer court, the sacrifice is killed. The priest takes a little bit of the blood of the sacrifice, brings it into the holy place, sprinkles it on the curtain that divides the holy from the most holy place, and he intercedes there for the people. Once a year, the high priest goes to the most holy place where the sanctuary was cleansed. The high priest, symbolically, the sins of the people were transferred to the sanctuary. The high priest takes these sins. He chooses 2 goats in the Day of Atonement, one for God and one representing the devil. The high priest, when he comes out of the most holy place, symbolically he brings all the sins of the people, puts his hands on the goat representing the devil, and transfer the sins to this goat. And this goat is taken to the wilderness to die. So here on earth, the plan of salvation was acted out through the sacrifice, the holy place, and the most holy place. And the priest represented Christ. When Jesus died and he rose again, he went to the holy place in the sanctuary in heaven to intercede for us. But at the end of the 2,300-year prophecy, in 1844, Jesus becomes our high priest, and from the holy place, he moves to the most holy place to cleanse the sanctuary. What's his cleansing? Is the judgment, the process of comparing, the process of evaluating. What are we comparing? Well, in 1844, the hour of his judgment starts. And anyone that has taken the name of Christian now is being evaluated. Because you see, in Revelation 22:12, Jesus says, when he comes back the second time, he says, I come quickly, and my reward is with me to give to each man according to their work, whether good or evil. So if Jesus comes back with our reward, a process of evaluation has to take place before our reward is given. And that's what's taking place right now in heaven, in the most holy place, where Jesus is acting as our high priest. Revelation 14. In Revelation 14, we find the 3 angels' message. Verse 6 says, and I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation, and to every kindred, and to every tongue, and to every people. This is a global gospel. Verse 7 says, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. Now is the hour of his judgment, which started at the end of the 2,300 prophecy of Daniel 8:14. The prophecy ended in 1844. The first angel's message tells us that in 1844, the hour of his judgment is come. I will link below the lesson and an amazing book that will help you to understand the prophecies of Daniel and Revelation, the great controversy. If you really want to know what's going to happen tomorrow to you, your family, to the whole wide world, you need to study the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.